Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters Week 2, Day 2 broadcast. It's hump day for us. We're straight up in the middle of it, the midpoint progress of which the week will be completed. So far, we've had a couple of interesting narratives unfold before our very eyes, and one of them is who is separating themselves from the pack. One of the players from America is Monsanto. He could be the first player at 4-0, which is a very nice, comfortable spot. And part of the reason why it's important is because as the weeks develop, we're going to have a playoffs to find out who's ultimately going to win the season for the region and get a spot in the global finals later this year.
Yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of players are talking about how season 1 doesn't have relegation, so it matters less. But no, there's still a spot on the line for the global finals. Same with season 2. So it's very important to hit the ground running. Yeah, as far as your performance is concerned. And they play 14 matches. They play everybody in their division twice. The double round robin. So starting off 4-0 gives you a big cushion to kind of maybe experiment, maybe have some off weeks in sort of the middle of season 1. Right. Monsanto also kind of, I don't want to say going against the grain, but in week 1 he brought the Summoner Mage, which was a little bit of a deviation from Cyclone Mage, which we saw across other players in other regions. And now this week decided to bring the Rogue, which is a big deal because 24 hours before they were supposed to submit, there was the nerfs hit for Rogue with the Evil Miscreant prep and raiding party. So a lot of players said that I didn't have enough time to experiment with Rogue, but Monsanto trusted in a player that he saw go 11-0 in one of those Masters Tour qualifiers and said, I'm just going to take that list. I trust myself to be able to pilot it well. And he did.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at their deck lists. We mentioned ETC bringing this Cyclone Mage. He is, one of the nice feel-good stories of the Hearthstone Grandmasters. I think there's a lot of people out there that can relate to ETC, and we mentioned this in week number 1. We'll probably mention it at least once a week whenever this guy is on the broadcast. Is that he represents the average Hearthstone player in the sense that he has a full-time job. He's in the family construction business that he inherited from his dad. He has 2 kids. They're very cute and bright young daughters that he has at 4 and 8 years old. I feel like I don't want to give away too much information about him.
But his address and his social security number are...
But ETC always played Hearthstone on his iPad in his free time at night whenever he came back from a long day of construction work. And then was able to accumulate like 9th in points for America's region last year. This guy is seriously good at Hearthstone, and now that he has an opportunity to pursue pro Hearthstone from his couch, essentially, I think it's really inspiring for many people who feel like they want to do the same exact thing. So, if you're out there and you're like, yeah, I like some of these people's personalities, but they all are full-time Hearthstone people. This is a guy that you can really draw inspiration from this story.
Yeah, and one of the other things to note is that he flew to Taiwan for like 5 days, not even knowing when he left that he would even be in Grandmasters. Right. Because his spot was based on how well the players at Worlds performed.
Yes, mainly language hacker.
Yeah, mainly language hacker, because if he took that highest Worlds performing spot, then the points would have gone to somebody else. So it's, whether it be like Muzzy or saying. So a pretty cool story overall, and even though he kind of squeaked in at the last minute, showing that he's definitely got what it takes. Yesterday he went up against Nalgi Don in a very unfavored matchup, and was able to take the win. So he's been impressing me a lot in these first few weeks of Grandmasters.
Yep, he has a pretty straightforward mage deck list with a couple of techs for anticipating other mages. Monsanto, in the meantime, he has, we call it a Burgle Rogue, we call it Thief Rogue, we call it, Vendetta Rogue, based off of some tips that, Nalgidan was saying, like in World of Warcraft back in the day. Vendetta was like a really big key skill that rogues would always be spamming. But let's be real, rogues spam everything in WoW.
Yes,
so
they do.
It's not exact.
It's limited by their energy,
yes,
which is basically their mana in Hearthstone. So fitting. I love lore.
Well, TJ is actually a big WoW nerd.
Yeah, I met my wife on World of Warcraft.
Oh.
Yeah, so it holds a special place in my heart, Dan.
It's never too late. This guy's a walking example.
For what?
to be able to engage, combine both work and pleasure.
Okay, yeah. But we still, we don't play as much as we used to. Hard with a kid, but we still,
It's great. You guys have a very cute and adoring family. Adorable family, sorry. Adoring. endearing is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Dan.
You know, yeah, in all seriousness, though, lots of stuff to be feared in this rogue deck, as there is tons of ways for it to go deep. We have Togwaggle Scheme. We have High Spare and Togwaggle for like that crazy tempo. The one thing is that the more I play with this deck list, TJ, the more I feel like preparation is severely lacking in Monsanto's deck list. And, you know, I feel like like StrifeCo yesterday was tweeting that there's a lot of nonsense cards in Monsanto's deck.
Yep.
And I gotta agree that there's definitely some awkwardness in the deck. Mainly through the fact that there's a lot more 2-drops than you anticipate in this deck, which you might think would be a good thing to curve out, but it often clogs Rogue's plays because they want to be able to squeeze in these efficient tempo swings through things like Vendetta and Backstab, and having like an Evil Cable Rat, Novice Engineer, and Blink Boxes, you know, they're great again for the resource generation. They don't actually do too much on the board, which means that you're soaking up your mana to draw cards. And that's not exactly what Rogue's specialty is, traditionally speaking.
Yeah, it's a much slower deck than what we've been used to with Rogue, especially StrifeCo's list, who has like deadly things and the preps to be able to, you know, and Hedge Clan Thugs to be able to hit the board running. But he does have ways that I think he can deal with Mage quite effectively. He's got a Walk the Plank. Just the fact that he has Vendetta, even Spirit of the Shark can be an interesting way to deal with stuff.
Okay.
Archmage Antonitis.
That's a good way to go
now
into
he
late game.
really wish he had prep.
Yeah, no kidding. ETC, no Banana Buffoon. That's usually one of the better cards to have here on curve, especially with Mountain Giant in hand. But Arcane Intellect still fills it up, puts him to 10 mana, or sorry, 10 cards. 10 mana.
Oh, wow. 3 mana spell, put your stuff to 10 mana crystals.
Wow, I am fumbling all over the place this morning.
Move out of the way.
It's basically Astral Communion for 3 mana.
Oh, man, I missed that card, Dan. So many fun moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of fun moments, Spirit of the Shark.
Oh, yeah. Spirit of the Shark has quickly become one of my favorite cards. Just because...
it's just so positive and generous.
It is, yeah. Here, you want a Battle Cry or a combo effect? Have another one. But it didn't see that much play. Maybe towards the end of the cycle before the Rogue nerfs. It's all a little bit of play. People realizing its power level with Life Drinker, with Evil Miscreant. But now, because you're cutting Raiding Party, some people are cutting Preps, you're cutting Waggle Picks, you're cutting the Pirate Package. You have so much wiggle room in those mid portions of the deck. And a lot of people have put in that Burgle package. But Spirit of the Shark, especially with Evil Cable Rats, because of the fact you get double the lackeys, and then each lackey has double the effect, it just can do some really powerful things.
Whoa, talk about doing really powerful things. This guy innervated a Mountain Giant. Well, actually, better description is coined, because he was able to squeeze out an extra mana crystal by using Elemental Invocation, increasing the cost of Mountain Giant by 1, but also reducing it by 2.
Yeah.
And then squeezing out the Conjurer's Calling. That's really cool. Is that going to be enough to stop Monsanto's early snowball advantage with Spirit of the Shark?
I mean, it looks like it won't be, because Monsanto has a way to deal with both of these. But the thing is, with the Sap on the Mountain Giant, it's not dealing with it. It's just buying you time. And the way that Monsanto would deal with it would be the guaranteed way. Sap on one Giant, Eviscerate, Blink Box trade in, and then poke. Now, Evil Cable Rat can pick up the Kobold Lackey, which can do the same thing, but develop more board presence and hold on to the Eviscerate.
Very nice.
So it does have a way to deal with both.
Prep. Where's the prep, though, right? Prep would have been really nice to like squeeze out everything and not have to utilize Shadow Step.
Yep.
I mean, it's still very effective.
Yeah, he did have a way to hold on to the Shadow Step and go and take 8 damage by him with the Dagger Chain and Blink Box. This preserves board presence. And he knows that since he's... Oh, what?
He's just going to take an 8 anyway. But, I mean, the Shark is still, as TJ aptly described it, wiggling its way through. Because that's what sharks do.
Yeah.
They wiggle and they bite.
That's pretty much all they do, Dan. So this play is actually better. One of the reasons why is because If you sap the Mountain Giant back in the hand, you still have to worry about Mountain Giant plus the Conjurer's Calling you know is there.
Right.
Maybe not the next turn, but going into 6 mana, that's definitely a possibility. So this allows him to save sap for maybe a higher priority target, or maybe allows him to gain tempo, and then use sap to try and push damage instead of using sap as just a defensive tool.
Yeah, and I think that when they have a giant, even if they didn't have the second Conjurer's Calling, you give them like the ability to maybe start counter pushing. Like if they have Frost Nova, we've seen this happen a lot where one giant sticks onto the board and it's like Frost Nova, and then they get Magic Trick into another chain freeze type situation. It just ends up becoming something that gets out of control really quickly. BTC can try to protect Luna with Mirror Image, or can try to go for a Magic Trick setup into another Conjurer's Calling. Okay. ETC picks Cinderstorm.
Yeah, I can't tell if he roped that out and it shows it for him because the rope hit.
Right.
That noise indication is the rope hitting.
Yeah.
It looked like he was mousing over Conjurer's Calling. Maybe didn't decide quick enough and picked Cinderstorm. Don't know for sure, but
TJ, double Heist Baron Togwall Battle Cry.
Yeah, you can get both. You can get the draw 3 cards and the summon legendaries.
Yeah. Or you can just draw 6 cards for free.
Or you can draw 6 cards, but I think having the middle ground is, I prefer that. Just because, yeah, drawing more cards, but it's great for 0 mana. You do have Antonidas. You know what, Dan? I think you've convinced me. Double Wonder Swan. Yep.
Yeah, baby. Yes. And Luna, she's great and all, very smart and strong and very scary to face off, but I think having the double wands here.
Double wand.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta give him the business with the 0 mana cards.
Well, who needs prep? He's got a sap and eviscerate. He's got vendettas. He's got walk the plank. All those things with Archmage Antonidas can be insane. Especially since this mage deck outside of Ziliax, and he cut to ETC doesn't even have Ziliax.
Oh, TJ, where you might just see a pop-off turn here. Oh, there's no Sorcerer's Apprentice.
There's no Sorcerer's Apprentice.
But once again, ETC can do something fairly similar to what he did earlier in this game. He can set up a very big Mountain Giant opportunity. However, this is starting to get a little bit scary because of Spear of the Shark. So perhaps this Mana Cyclone setup is better. He can Cinderstorm Elemental Invocation and then play Mana Cyclone. But still, again, doesn't have any guarantee that Shark will die. Nor does he have a lot of hand space to actually work with, surprisingly. Cinderstorm. Elemental Invocation. He's running out of time. Okay. Hoping that he hits a Shark. Shark bites the dust. Ends up panning out pretty ideally, I'd say.
Picks up Scorch, which, because of the Elemental played, will be down to 1 mana next turn. Arcane Explosion, Vaporize, Kona Cold. Decent pickups. Kona Cold can oftentimes act as a Frost Nova effect for 1 additional mana.
Here's, oh my goodness.
Whoa.
What the heck? Such powerful cards being drawn here. The thing is, the Heist Baron Togwall is surviving, by the way, at 1 HP. Means this Witchy Lackey upgrades it to a 7 mana minion. And that's got to feel good for Monsanto. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at some way to capitalize on these 0 mana cards. I guess playing all of them is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then I would like to Witchy Lackey. But I think if you want to go for that, you might want to evolve first to see what kind of 7 mana minion, because there might be some disruption if it's like Baron Geddon.
Yeah, I mean, he has... I guess Blink Fox also kind of gives you that a little bit additional information.
Dart Frog.
He can play Witchy Lackey, SI7 Agent, and Evil Miscreant here to clear off the board in its entirety and generate so much stuff.
Okay.
I mean, it heals it up,
yeah,
right?
It heals it up. Monsanto needs the Mana Cyclone on board.
Huh. And
so
the
SI7 Agent... Ooh, losing that Conjurer's Calling. I wonder if that's a big deal right here, right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially since he had the option to pick another one up.
Right.
from the magic trick earlier on.
Exactly. However, there's got to be some opportunities here for ETC to go for a big play, but he doesn't have Sorcerer's Apprentice. One of the things to consider too is that ETC does have 2 Frost Novas, and yesterday he was the Frost Nova master. Today, seems like they have abandoned him.
I wonder.
So with a full hand, ETC has 2 options. He can go for a defensive clear attempt, like utilizing Scorch for 1 mana, doing like Cone of Cold, Doomsayer, or some kind of removal option, or he can develop really heavily and try to proactively develop into Monsanto's hand. And that's exactly what he's choosing to do here. With this Conjurer's Calling onto the Mountain Giant, he's hoping for some defensive tools. He gets the Graveheart. This also still activates Scorch, by the way, because Mountain Giant is an elemental. Monsanto with all the lackeys that he could ever ask for. Monsanto and lackeys. Very fitting thematically.
But not Ethereal Lackey.
So
Right, because that
many
card is
options.
coming in the next expansion.
It seems like it. Yeah, big conspiracy theory from yesterday that we'll see if it holds true.
Yeah, so part of it is that we haven't actually seen Ethereal Lackey.
We saw it once, but it wasn't Monsanto. Oh, no, he did get 1, but it was like 1 out of 14 lackeys that first year. He got
It was
it.
Striker, actually.
Oh, maybe it was Stripegro, yeah.
But it does seem to be fairly uncommon. Another Wondrous Wand. 3 free spells! Who needs prep?
Now, the question is... All right, so now you can feel free to use a sap because you know that both Conjurer's Callings are gone. Both happen. So the second one, you saw the at least a random spell from Magic Trick. So there's 4 random cards that could be Conjurer's Calling. But he is running out of time. He has a good trade in here and sap on the Mountain Giant. If he plays Evil Miscreant...
Did Monsanto also overtrade? He sacrificed an extra 1/1 and filled up his hand.
Well, he has 9 cards, and one thing about overtrading is it's not the worst thing in the world, because a 1/1 is not that impactful, and ETC has double Sea Giants in his list.
Oh, okay, yes, I like it. I like it.
So
Sea
small
Giants.
trades like that could always be intentional, and most likely will be just to consolidate your board and have the best chance against Sea Giant that you could.
Well, Sea Giant at 6 mana still wouldn't allow ETC to Frost Nova afterwards.
That's true.
Mountain Giant, yes, it would. And this is basically Frost Nova.
Yeah. But Monsanto has to check once again. Yeah, he has second sap, but he also has Kobold Lackey Eviscerate SI7 agent to kind of get rid of that. But it looks like he's got some
I think I
different
want
plans in mind.
fireballs. So maybe you eviscerate face here and start going for a victory push. You can sap the giant and eviscerate face. Have 2 more fireballs. And it just seems like game at this point. And all of a sudden, the mage that utilizes Archmage Antonitis in the late stage of the game for the victory push is getting Antonitis right back. This is a situation that is supposed to happen to Monsanto. Some role reversal here.
And the biggest thing that the Archmage Antonitis does is it cuts off ETC's ability to try and buy time with freeze effects.
Right.
It cuts off his ability to, say, like, make big questings and then freeze to try and buy time and make them even bigger for the push later in the game, like he did against Naugidon's Murloc Shaman yesterday.
What to do?
Because if you freeze Archmage
What
Antonitis,
to
he's still
do?
generating fireballs, you're still taking 13 damage a turn.
I mean, ETC is doing his best to try to figure out a way out of this situation. I think that with Antonitis sticking on the board no matter what, ETC is on a 2-turn clock because he can set up these mirror images, he can set up like, you know, the questing adventures and try to go for a big push. But Monsanto just fireball, and then the next turn he just fireball again. So ETC knows that there's that inevitability, so he has to set up a situation where Monsanto is forced to answer these questing adventures instead. Because I don't think this one lone mountain giant can get it done.
So he can go...
He's almost out of time, which makes me think he's going to concede.
You win.
Yep. His only hope was like questing, mirror image, hope he finds, I don't know. There's nothing. He has no Ziliax in his deck. So there's not even an option to get like Astral Rift into Vicious Scrap Hound into Ziliax to gain the armor, right? There's just no hope for that to try and make it. I guess Astral Rift could give you Ziliax and Vicious Scrap Hound exactly, which is like the biggest tempo plus health swing you could have on a board. But unfortunately, not able to get it done. And Monsanto showing the power of his Rogue deck once again. It plays a little bit slower, but because of that, if games don't get out of hand too quickly, the late game is just monstrous for this deck.
Absolutely, and it's even slower than the other rogue decks that are out there. So it ends up working out into Monsanto's favor as he's up 1-0, one game away from a flawless 4-0 start for the first 2 weeks of Hearthstone Grandmasters. We'll be right back with more action. Don't go anywhere. Back in a sec.
My name is Francisco Frale Montas. One of my best friends came out with my nickname. We are all getting like nicknames with 3 letters for some reason, like 13 years old. My name is Francisco, and Francisco's called Pancho, so it's just like 3 letters from that, P and C. One interesting thing about me that most people don't know is that I used to study ancient history. I quit for Hearthstone a couple of years, but plan on going back at one point. My favorite Hearthstone Esports moment was when I topped like Lethal 2016 Copa America Finals. That was like my first big win, and I was very, very happy. It's like finally all that I worked for coming true. Beating Grandmasters for me means that all the hard work that I put in last years and all the time that I spent in the game is paying off. My favorite thing about Grandmasters would be that I get a chance to prove myself like on the big stage. What makes me unique as a player, I would say, is just bringing very complicated decks to tournament. It's mostly combo decks that people usually don't play. My personal goals this year will be to earn as much money as I can, of course, and yeah, just improve as a player and play the best I can.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mocked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist, and each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of peace. What? All right, let me try this again. Alone all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take all the candles. No fish bigger.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hit it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Dalaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters. Monsanto's up 1-0 over ETC. This rogue is looking mighty fine, and it is a greedy thief rogue with a bunch of real nice bells and whistles. It's got Spear of the Shark, the Walk the Plank, the Heist Baron Togwoggle, Underbelly Fence, the Vendetta, and even like the extra gas on top with the Novice Engineer, the Evil Cable Rat, and the Togwoggle scheme. I like it a lot. I do think that if you take this deck on ladder, you might get swallowed by the influx of aggressive decks. I ran into a handful of Zoo Warlocks and Token Druids, and even fast Beast Hunters, or the Mech Hunters with the aggressive package built into it. And it feels like if you do play this rogue deck, you have to be mindful of it, which is why I think I like Strifecore's version a little better. It's faster for fighting tempo onto the board. That being said, up against Mage, it feels like it's in the exact sweet spot because Mage doesn't do anything for the first 3-4 turns unless you have to dump a lot of resources.
Yeah, and you have so many ways to deal with the Giants, and especially now since Monsanto has switched to his tertiary deck, which he's only removed and replaced 2 cards. He removed Togwaggle Scheme and one of the Underbelly Fences to put in 2 Betrayals, which is just another way to deal with a Conjurer's Calling board. It's a tech specifically designed for Mage, it seems. And ETC will just once again cue his primary deck because he feels it's the best suited to take on this rogue deck from Monsanto.
All right, well, now I get to see Monsanto answer a question that I've been having myself, is do you keep Evil Caporat on 2 against Mage? And I've debated this a lot because I feel like having that extra lackey is really important, but 3 tends to be a very awkward turn because you either play Blink Fox or you don't have anything else to play. Because Evil Miscreant, SI7 Agent, and obviously Edwin Van Cleef are the other 3-mana plays.
A full keep.
He full keeps?
Yeah.
Interesting, okay. So I tend to keep the Evil Cable Rat on 2 because I think it increased the flexibility to plays. But keeping the other 2 combo-oriented 3-drops is definitely something worth thinking about here. Because Monsanto, his hand is very combo-oriented, but he has no like real easy engine starters, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's why the Evil Cable Rat makes sense.
Yeah, no preparation, which is kind of the big one. You're not often guaranteed a target to backstab early enough to activate Evil Miscreant. So having lackeys is good for Edwin, and knowing that you have a lot of, is good for Evil Miscreant. Having a lot of lackeys is good for Edwin Van Cleef.
Kobold Lackey, wait for him to fight back against 2 health minions, which the Mage seems to have a surplus of outside of big giants. Yeah, ATC, with that Mountain Giant draw, looks like the soonest he can play that is turn 4, if he just draws naturally. Now, this is kind of the awkward point, but with the second Cable Rat, maybe Monsanto has a nice, easy, proactive play, and he does. Faces Lackey here. Now, he could save that Lackey for a Spear of the Shark setup, or he can even save it for the next turn by utilizing it with Evil Miscreant, and then play Shark plus Lackey. Well, even though Shark is great on curve, it's also very powerful just as a development tool on 5, so that way you're not just, like, playing a 0-3 on 4.
Yeah. Now, I spotted a play that would be very powerful if he had the time to do so. And that would be to just pass. Next turn, set up Spear of the Shark. The following turn, go Kobold Lackey, Faceless Lackey, Edwin Van Cleef. You get 1 additional 2-drop, 2 additional damage, and Edwin gains +4/+4. So it would be a way to have like a giant swing if he wanted to have time.
Yeah, Edwin doubles off of his combo with Spear of the Shark.
Yep.
Which sounds as ridiculous as it is. If you play 3 cards before it, Edwin becomes a 14/14.
Yep.
Because instead of an 8/8, it gains an extra 6/6.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just play
pretty sick.
2 cards, which is probably about average. I think 6/6 is probably the Edwin that I see the most. It's all of a sudden a 10/10, which is incredibly difficult. Going all in on Edwin Van Cleef is not the best course against Mage because they can buy some time with Werefoss. They can also, in a pinch, Conjurer's Calling an Edwin. So let's say you use like 4 cards to Edwin, make it massive.
Right.
Conjurer's Calling just makes it into 2/3 drops.
Yep. So Monsanto knows he has to deal with this giant, can deal with it in a multitude of ways. Backstab, Kobold Lackey, and Edwin is pretty sick because it stops exactly what you're talking about and pressures based off the way we're describing it.
Yeah. And it keeps the saps in hands, which, as we talked about, if you have the means to deal with it otherwise, it's usually better to hold the saps. But he could go for a play just like Sap Edwin, since he has the second one. Edwin would still be an 8/8. and he'd have a second sap in hand plus a big turn the following turn. But I do like this play that you suggested a little bit more. Having that Edwin also be able to trade into a giant on the other hand, to even hold on to saps even longer, or even just push for 10.
And this trade, again, acknowledging Sea Giant as a potential threat.
Yeah, if he trades twice, Sea Giant is 7.
Right. If he trades once, it is 6, which means he could still coin it out. And again, this might look very weird if you are just tuning in, but you know, Monsanto trying to restrict ETC's play opportunities. But even if ETC did play like a Sea Giant situation, he could just sap it.
Yeah.
So he's all right. Keep in mind that these players still don't know if there's any switch in decks. I don't think it's likely that ETC switch decks, given that cards like Harrison Jones and Hexlord Malacrass isn't exactly what you're looking for against the Rogue.
Yeah.
Nor is, I guess, is Magic, Dart Frog, and Polymorph the concerns.
Well, I mean, I think Magic, Dart Frog, and Polymorph are fine. I think it's just what he's taking out to make room for those, like Questings and Banana Baboon. Right. Gets rid of a lot of his early board presence to add in like removal. So that's more for like token-based decks, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Or you have to remove the board every turn.
Well, Monsanto, by sapping this Doomsayer, activates his Miscreant, which conveniently works out very nicely.
And 4 lackeys. No ethereal, no ethereal.
The Witchy Lackey here is very nice.
Yeah, Witchy Lackey upgrades this Evil Miscreant to a 5-drop. Now, there's a chance that he doesn't want to play it again for Sea Giant, because if he leaves the board as is, Sea Giant's still 7 mana, and it looks like he's going to stick to the line of forcing the awkward turn from ETC where he can't play Sea Giant, so trying to keep his odds high that this Edwin sticks around for as long as possible.
Yeah, but now ETC has the Mountain Giant, Conjurer's Calling, and then he could Ray of Frost the Edwin again. Forces opponent to deal with 2 big giant targets. In fact, he has the opportunity of using Sorcerer's Apprentice with that as well. So he could really go off this turn. He could Mountain Giant, then Sorcerer's Apprentice, then coin out the Conjurer's Calling, then utilize all of his 1-mana spells. Alternatively, he can go for another Doomsayer setup, but then he does know that there's 4 lackeys, which means it's likely that the Doomsayer goes down in some capacity.
There's no way for him to get a Sea Giant down. I was thinking something like Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mirror Image, but that'd only be 4 additional minions on board, so Sea Giant would still be expensive. There was no way for him to fit in Khadgar and all of this also. A little bit too expensive.
So it seems like ETC's going with the Sorcerer's Apprentice line, 2 Grave Horrors, which actually is better than the Mountain Giant because he's basically racking up his spell count, and Grave Horror is going to be very cheap. Potentially cheaper than the Mountain Giant. However, I haven't been keeping track of spells. We do know that he's played at least 6 so far. Ooh. He's played 2 Ray of Frost.
Yep.
He played 1 Ray of Frost before this, as well as a Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah.
So Grave Horror still might be more expensive than Mountain Giant.
Yeah.
Might be. We'll see.
The Hedge Clan Burglar picker from Monsanto does allow him to deal with both Grave Horrors. Now, one would have to be sapped, but if he goes Hedge Clan Burglar, Sap, Vendetta, and Goblin Lackey.
Right.
It is a clear, but it's a lot of over-damage into the second Grave Horror because the Goblin Lackey would activate twice, so it'd be 6, so you'd be overkilling by 2.
Yeah. And I think this is sort of like the, the nice thing about Monsanto's play. Oh my gosh, Mud Hunter with Rush. It won't even die to a Grave Horror trade.
So now he can do that same play.
Haunting Visions? Running out of time, but he can deal with both. Saps one, trades to the other. But now Sea Giant is very scary because this is what Monsanto was afraid of, by the way, that if he sets up a big board, that his opponent plays like Mirror Image, Sea Giant, Frost Nova, and all of a sudden he's in a really bad spot. So Grave Horror was 6 as we thought, but now with the Sorcerer's Apprentice living, that thing can come down for real cheap. And ETC has a free, essentially a free giant this turn.
Yeah, a free giant plus he can Khadgar's Conjurer's Calling. Now he doesn't get. He would have to trade in the Sorcerer's Apprentice to get full value from it. Otherwise, it's just getting the 3 minions. But Spirit of the Shark is very threatening. It's whether or not you want to leave a Spirit of the Shark on board or whether or not you want to have an extra 10 drop.
With 3 lackeys in hand, I think I want to kill the shark.
I really like 10/10s, Dan.
Oh, well, this
Oh, you can pick it. Oh, yeah.
It's a good spot.
Very good spot. Best of both.
Still rather kill the shark. Whoa, 4 in a row. ETC, we haven't gone to Vegas yet.
They're all golden, too. Haunting Visions Vanish?
Holy crap, you can't deal with all the Nazaris. It's a lot of pocket sand.
A lot of pocket time sand.
Unstable element.
Ugh.
That is definitely the best card out of these 3,
Yeah.
especially with Shark gone, but does that answer his impending problem, which is there's a crap ton of dragons on the board.
I think he needed exactly Vanish. I'll be honest with you. Because Nazari, well, yes, when you get 4 of them from a 2-drop, in the case of Sorcerer's Apprentice, reducing the cost, they're great. But when they're 10 mana, it's very hard to find time to play them.
This is also one of the reasons why Shadow Step on the Henchman Broker Thief can find an opportunity. Like, there are a lot of 3-mana spells that might be able to help him. Okay. Chooses instead to fight for tempo and try to kill off this Khadgar first. Saves 1 extra health onto his underbelly fence.
I mean, he still has a 10/10.
Oh man, Frost Nova off the top with the Stargazer Luna. Grave Horror is playable this turn.
And this is a lethal setup. So Monsanto needs a kind of a miracle from this Henchman Burglar. And I don't even know what that miracle is.
Betrayal, it's a 2 betrayal list.
It is the 2 betrayal list. Unfortunately, against 10/10s, that'd be fantastic. Ugh.
Oh, the heroic strike is not going to do anything. Auto defense matrix, his minions aren't going to even be attacked. And sacrificial pact, obviously,
What could he
not
have
the
gotten?
right tribe. What could he have gotten for? Like, there's almost infinite possibilities.
Yeah, there. Well,
Could have got like Shadow Flame. Actually, Shadow Flame would have been enough. He would have had to Shadow Flame Betrayal.
Shadow Flame Betrayal actually would have not have been bad. Actually, Shadow Flame would have been enough because he has 2 Goblin Lackeys in hand.
You're right.
So he buffs up the Edwin Van Cleave. Because you can't get Vanish from Henchman Burglar because it's a card from another class. So you can't get rogue cards.
Double time and double pay.
Props to Monsanto for figuring out some way to clear off a lot of this, and probably wants to kill off the Luna with the heroic strike. Can also use this Goblin Lackey for the rush, but he's just going to utilize this heroic strike while he can. 16 damage onto the board. He just needs to find 4 extra damage of some capacity. Antonidas gives him a fireball.
Yeah. He can Archmage Antonidas, Elemental Evocation, push this damage to face and then ping face. So
Maybe ping the 5-1.
yeah, the 5-1 because he'd still have enough with just the fireball.
So there's 10, 15, 17. 17 damage with 27 health. Feels fairly safe. Monsanto does not have that Leroy. Is there one card that can bail him out? Well, it's a wash, but you get 2 less mana. Shadow Step. $17, $18. I think it's Shadows of the Novice Engineer, but I don't know what he's gonna draw. He doesn't. He already uses one copy of Henchcamp Burglar. Even if he gets like Walk the Plank or Ziliax, it still doesn't solve the issue.
Like my invention.
Blink Fox.
Oh, jeez.
Frost Nova. Mirror Image. Oh, it's not enough because the Fireball still does damage. ETC with the March of the Dragons. That's what Season H.
March of the Dragon.
March of the Dragon. Brian Kibler somewhere is very happy. Of course, because he's Brian Kibler, but also if you ended up watching that, I saw that he was watching Grandmasters from his home gym as he was tweeting. Shout out to Kibler, we missed you. Tied series, 1 game apiece. That was a sweet game. I gotta admit, ETC figuring out all the ways to squeeze out the optimization.
Yeah.
Really on point. Good stuff.
And that's where kind of this mage deck gets its strength, right? Even if you have not the greatest early start, he had his first board dealt with. He, kept getting further and further behind on board, but then one turn was what it took. A Ray of Frost,
Right.
A giant sticking, and then whatever you want from that point forward. A board full of 4/12s could have been 12/12s, which would have ended the game even quicker.
It was actually on the lower end of power level for
Yeah.
10 mana minions, but they were very sticky, which is part of the problem. But maybe calls into question exactly what we were talking about. Monsanto has a bunch of 1-attack minions, and he doesn't pressure the mage nearly enough. It was almost at full life that deep into the game, and that could be a problem as we proceed because Monsanto did switch to his tertiary deck, but it didn't pan out. We'll find out who wins this best of 3 when we return to the Hearthstone Grandmasters for Americas.
My name is Fei Liang. My handle is ETC. Before Hearthstone, I was playing World of Warcraft, and when I saw Elite Tauren shift, and I think the card is pretty cool, I'm gonna try it. I think the style I like the most is combo deck, because there are a lot of win conditions and there are a lot of ways you can win the game. My son plays Hearthstone sometimes.
Is he good?
He got rank 9. He likes Zoo list.
Are you going to teach your daughter to play Hearthstone?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think that she'll be better than him?
Probably yes, because I think my daughter is way smarter than my boy. Getting #1 in Grandmaster is gonna totally change my life. I think it proved myself, and my kids are gonna be proud of me.
Well met, friend. Ooh.
Let's get this over with. I win!
Oh, what an amazing game! Oh, well played!
Here's to the winner.
Monsanto versus ETC. There only can be one winner here. And again, the thing that we're focusing on is Monsanto's undefeated streak potentially coming to an end if ETC can mess that up. In the meantime, ETC would tie for the top of the division at a 3-1 score if he does do that. And I gotta say that ETC's technical play as well as Monsanto both have been very cool to see so far. I do think that there was maybe one like rope falter moment that looked like it was a little bit
The
awkward.
Cinderstorm Conjure is calling, but we don't know for sure. Maybe
Right.
he really did want the Cinderstorm. We heard the rope animation, but
Yeah.
that's minor.
It's fine. I think overall the play was very good, and they're able to spot like small things that make a pretty significant difference in
Absolutely.
edge, and making us look dumb. But that's the whole point. You know, the dumber we look, the smarter they look, which is ultimately what I
That's
think everybody.
the goal.
That's everybody wins.
Yeah. If we just put the smartest Hearthstone players up on the desk every week, then what would be the point of anybody playing? You just listen to them talk. So we put the chuckleheads up here.
Yes. We're here to pass the time and twiddle our thumbs until the players can get ready.
That's right.
But ultimately, yes, I mean, there are no slouches in the Grandmasters. All these players have earned their spot one way or another. And you get to see exactly why, even if these aren't the players that you initially look at to be the front runners.
Yeah.
You know, people look at Just Sand and Muzzy, Purple, Dog, Amnesiac, Firebat. You know, these are players who have not only, of course, done it all, but also have put themselves into the limelight as, you know, the personalities of the region. And, you know, some of that gives an opportunity for players to fly under the radar to utilize the fact that Hearthstone is a story of the underdog, TJ. That it's never truly over till it's over. You know, even though you come in as the favorite, you have an edge and that's it. Any given Sunday.
I thought Hearthstone was about celebrating whoever loses.
Oh, well, based off the animation that you just saw, I think you could definitely draw that inference, but I don't think that's actually the case. But let's be real, TJ.
I'm all surface, Dan. you can't get to me with commercials like that. I'll take it the wrong way. I'm all surface.
Let's be real, TJ. We're all losers here.
And one thing I'll tell you, Dan, is I have a lot of surface.
No, man, TJ, your diet's been working out great. You look better than I've ever remembered.
Well, I'm staring at a turkey sandwich right to my right, and I'm going to tell you
That's
what.
the healthiest kind of sandwich. Turkey's a lean protein.
I'll tell you what, Dan, I may have to take a break here for a couple minutes.
I got you.
No,
because this game is
I
going to
can
go
wait.
on for a while because Monsanto has an average of 1 attack across all of his minions.
Okay, well, Blinkbox makes that. No, it's still average 1 attack.
Yeah, because it's a shark. But, you know, it does get fiery really quickly. And the Coin Miscreant will also give Monsanto more play flexibility. Now, the one thing that I'm looking at is ETC's Questing Adventure, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mana Cyclone, Elemental Evocation Hand. That has room to just flip the game on its head and turn it into a situation where ETC is racing to victory. And then put Monsanto on a situation where he has to either have the perfect response or he has to counter-lethal him. And I don't think Monsanto has the deck to do that counter-lethal opportunity. So it'll be about whether or not Monsanto picks up the response cards.
Yeah, the saps, effectively. Sap is the questing adventure.
Right, or steal
killer.
cards.
Yeah,
the class.
or steal cards from the class. Like we pick up a polymorph
Yeah.
or any hard removal from the one hench clan burglar that he has. But he's off to a decent start. He's got board presence. We talked about Blinkbox, the biggest early body that he can play effectively outside of Edwin Van Cleef.
Surprisingly, you know, as much as Giants are like great for the early game, I think ATC would rather draw anything but his Giants. I think he'd rather have his Magic Trick, his Mirror Images, anything that's really cheap. I mean, if he draws Banana Buffoon, he's an okay spot. So I think, even though this is the turn where you can go Questing Adventure, Sorcerer's Apprentice, and all that other jazz, I think you can still wait another turn. So maybe you just drop the Giant, bait out all those removal, and then go for it, or you go for the Arcane Intellect and power up even further and go even further beyond.
Everything just seems like, with Spirit of the Shark on board, is answered so easily.
It's true.
Mountain Giant, like a Kobold Lackey and an Eviscerate, or a Kobold Lackey and an SI7 agent answers a Mountain Giant. It feels too easy.
True. And there's, the lackeys are in hand.
Yeah. I think you need to wait to the turn where you can go Mountain Giant plus Conjurer's Calling.
The thing is, this play does dump a significant amount of the part of the hand. Oh, you're going to refill it.
Get it back.
Mana Cyclone. Okay. I mean, this is one thing that we were hinting at early on. But I guess with the Spirit of the Shark on board, you can't afford to be super greedy.
And this potentially picks up more 1-mana spells to be able to dump real quick here. Nope.
Yeah, his hand is still fairly expensive. But one of the nice things about this is that if they don't have the response, one, you snowball the victory, but two, there's still a significant amount of presence on board to maybe make a cheap Sea Giant.
Yeah. That's definitely a possibility, but Monsanto can pick apart this board in many ways. The Kobold Lackey is 4 damage. The Goblin Lackey is an additional 2. He's got Backstab, Eviscerate. Also, the Underbelly Fence gains an additional +1/+1.
All right, it's a 4/5 with Rush. Woo!
Yeah.
I like the sound of that. I like Underbelly Fence. I think Backstab, Kobold Lackey, plus the trade-ins. Since you don't have Witchy Lackey, you don't really care about having that extra body and evolve. You want to actually restrict the board space, too, for Sea Giant. But he doesn't have Mirror Image, so Sea Giant's less of a threat. He would have absolutely played Mirror Image if he had it.
Ooh.
So maybe you Backstab. Ooh. So if he does this, he's not going to Backstab the Questing Adventurer first. Because the Backstab does 2, Kobold Lackey does 4, and then the 7th point is the Evil Miscreant. Then Underbelly Fence and like an Evil Cable Rat lets you finish out everything. Okay, so he's gonna use the Goblin Lackey instead. So this play allows Monsanto to clear the board, which is I was trying to squeeze out a little bit more value off the Shark, but clearly the Shark isn't going anywhere in his mind.
Huh.
If he actually did the other play I was talking about, I think there would be the 2/2 Mana Cyclone left on board, and then he would lose his Shark. So this this makes the most sense.
Yeah. It also, because of the trade with the Evil Miscreant, makes Sea Giant unplayable. Not that he wouldn't have an answer to it if he were to just play a Sea Giant on the board. But
this is good. This is like a pattern that's constantly repeating, TJ, which is we spot a play and then they spot a better version.
Yes.
Which is why, I think that shows the skill difference between, TJ is like, and I are players that can like get to like, mid to top legend every now and then.
Yeah.
But these players are like constantly like top 25 or better. You can see exactly why.
Yeah.
Within that 70 seconds or so per turn, they can optimize even further and find a way to position themselves to not only, of course, develop the best, but disrupt their opponent's plays.
Yeah, when I get to top 50 legend, I just text my entire family, even my extended family. I text acquaintances.
Is that why you got a smartphone for your baby so you can text him when you hit top 50 legend?
Yeah, he doesn't even care, but I show him anyway.
He cares.
I like to think that he's proud of me.
He cares, TJ. What if your baby pukes because you hit top 50 legend all the time?
Yeah, maybe he just hates video games.
That'd be sad.
That'd
be very sad.
You don't know how sad that'd be. I would be. He could do whatever he wants. Still no Ethereal Lackey, Dan.
That's right. Oh my gosh. We've seen so many lackeys, and
there's been almost 20 lackeys in the series. I think we've seen 16 lackeys.
I think that'd be actually in a way. I know it's like not very common. It's supposed to be equally balanced, but it feels like it'd be much more fair if you don't get Ethereal Lackey all the time. It's like a lower chance.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like Ethereal Lackey sometimes is way too strong, especially in a class like Rogue. But Arcane Explosion, cleaning everything out with the Blast Wave. This was sequenced for ETC to get spells and fill up his hand to 9, it looks like.
Ooh, I don't know about the Stargazer Luna yet.
It's his most powerful minion along with
It is the most powerful minion.
It's a bunch of one-attack minions.
Yeah, he could go Stargazer Luna into Evil Cable Rat and then draw with the Lackey.
I guess in this case, SI the face, you just draw a card and develop the best board presence.
Develop the best board presence. That does have a lot of merit,
Yeah.
and maybe you pick up. I mean, I guess it's really only Shadow.
Like his high spare and Togwaggle is like what he wants at this point.
Yeah, true.
So I think you face his lackey at the end. Although, I feel like with this sequencing, sometimes if you face his lackey at the end, you're asking for a Doomsayer. But he also has to keep in mind the Sea Giant possibilities, because right now it's full hand. And it's very likely that ETC would draw into a mirror image as time goes on. ETC has the Power of Creation. That's a card that he could save with Kagdar, or he can drop it now. He could also go for the Giants this turn. So, Giant for 3, Mirror Image for 1. That'd be 5 minions on the board. Sea Giant would cost 5, hit 4 mana left. So he could double Mirror Image. So ETC can... So the play would be Mountain Giant, double Mirror Image, Sea Giant. Because then there'd be 5 minions on the board with 3 mana crystals left. Or sorry, 7 minions on the board with 3 mana crystals left. So that does work out very nicely.
Yep.
The alternative is to play defensive.
Runs out on me.
I think I just like the Power of Creation, to be honest.
Okay.
You only spend 1 card, so your Mountain Giant doesn't. You don't sacrifice anything with your Mountain Giant. You can still wait until Conjurer's Calling. Okay, well, there's the Hearthstone Togwaggle.
Yes, with the Lackey combo. Betrayal here ends up working out fairly nicely too, but doesn't have enough mana.
Also, Betrayal is just premium removal for those late game board states. This is while it is a reasonably high value Betrayal, you know, in a normal game of Hearthstone with 0 context of the situation of the decks, this is like, oh wow, this Betrayal is pretty good. I get 2 mana, deal 5 damage.
I gotta say though, TJ, that Monsanto also is in a situation where maybe he can start pushing for lethal because he has like Eviscerates now. So it's like one of those interesting things where it's like Monsanto is playing for like long-term value again. I mean, Hearthstone Togwaggle is just really good.
Yeah.
Behold the tools of creation.
I do feel like setting up some kind of lethal opportunity is really important because one of the big dangers of Monsanto doing this play is that he's filling up his board, which means that Frost Nova becomes even scarier. In fact, Monsanto's he's trading the board to restrict it for the Sea Giant. Okay.
Wow, that's a lot of respect.
Yeah, and it's like he's going slow still. He's like very confident that his deck can win out in the long run, which I don't blame him. His hand looks really nice to keep going deep into the game. It's just that time is what ETC wants.
It is what he wants, but...
And like, what if it's a situation where once again ETC doesn't Conjurer's Calling the Mountain Giant, but he Conjurer's Calling 10 drops, and then Betrayal becomes kind of weak. And then he just sets up a board situation similar to game 2 where Monsanto can't do anything.
The one thing though is if you run the Mage out of threats, they have just a handful of spells that don't do anything, right? They have Frost Novas and Ray of Frost and Mirror Images that can't get onto the board that way.
Right.
But this deck from ETC has so many threats. He's got the double Sea Giant, the double Mountain Giant. He's got the Questing Adventurers, which a lot of other players that have played Cyclone Mage have cut. And he has the Archmage Antonitis. So it feels nearly impossible to completely run ETC out of threats.
Yeah. Great Betrayal positioning. And I say that not sarcastically whatsoever. For the first time in my Hearthstone casting career. He played around Betrayal.
He did.
So many options.
I don't know. He can deal with one of the Giants. Swandra's Wand. Monsanto's going to go digging for other removal. Looking for saps. Finds 1 sap. And the Vendetta.
Ooh, okay.
So that's full clear.
Yeah, so he has Vendetta plus Eviscerate and a sap.
Well, he can actually just Betrayal one of these as well.
Oh, he can trade Betrayal,
right?
Eviscerate, Vendetta.
I think so. Does he have mana to do that actually?
Well, you need a dagger up, so that's 2. Vendetta is 0.
So many options.
Eviscerate is 2, and
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, the
He does
Betrayal
know
and
enough.
Sap. Oh no, Vendetta and the Illusory, yeah.
Got it off.
Trying to drain him out of the resources like we're talking about. And now, even if ETC picks up a Conjurer's Calling, it's not going to be enough. I think he's looking for Antonidas at this point. And the value plan, the long-term drain opponent of resources, is working out nicely for Monsanto.
Yeah. So, I guess this is kind of the brilliance of Monsanto's game plan is that, yes, there's too many threats for you to remove in the deck,
Oh, yeah.
but they're not all drawn at the same time. That's the thing. Unless you draw like perfectly, then you're not going to have a threat after a threat after a threat after a threat.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. Like, you know, Monsanto's hand was not equipped to deal with it. He ended up having to draw and hope that he would get the removal. But he knew that he had a high likelihood of doing that because look how deep he's into the deck. He hadn't hit some of the more important removal cards.
Yeah.
So it ended up panning out perfectly fine. And Monsanto also found perfect mana expenditure as well.
I hope you like my invention.
Second Sap. Throwing these 1/1s, which cost mana to draw cards.
It's actually clear with SI7 Agent Goblin Lackey. He deals 2 rush plus the dagger hit.
Right.
I don't know if he wants to go for that. Maybe he just wants to let this Doomsayer go off. There's still a Sea Giant left in the deck, so he would put 4 minions on board, which means like Sea Giant plus Conjurer's Calling would be unlocked. He does have Betrayal.
Sea Giant could come down anyways, but then he could sap it the following turn. Because
Yeah.
even if there's no minions on board, Sea Giant costs 10.
It costs 10, but then he does a Conjurer's Calling, so he can deal with 1 threat at a time.
I think I like the board development because you still have the saps.
And you also got to kill him, right? Like, you can't just wait forever. He's going to hit Fatigue first.
Right, and there's also that possibility of Antonidas Frost Nova, which is still really scary.
Yeah.
And like that puts a clock on you, so to speak. You do have saps, but your opponent's still in a pretty decent spot. I mean, you're a rogue deck, you just want to pressure them out of the game.
Yeah, and he in this tertiary deck to add the 2 Betrayals, he did cut Togwaggle Scheme, so there's no potential for going infinite outside of Lackey into Ethereal Lackey into a Togwaggle Scheme.
Yeah, we're starting to see like some of the punish, so to speak, of ETC's deck building. Like Doomsayer, of course, great defensively, but you know when people are putting Sandbinders instead into their deck. Oh,
Playing around Walk the Plank.
wow! What the heck? What?
Now, it doesn't play around the 2 saps that are in the deck.
That was brilliant, TJ. That was brilliant for so many reasons. He pinged his own Doomsayer so that he can play around Walk the Plank, but also because he doesn't want to kill the 1/1s for Sea Giant to stay as cheap as it is. Because he anticipates his Doomsayer to go down in some capacity or to be ineffective. That was awesome. And it didn't really work out exactly the way ETC was anticipating, but it lined up very nicely based off the draw.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a breakpoint for hitting face, though. Monsanto only had 8 cards left, so the likelihood that he had saps is very high. I'm thinking if there was a breakpoint with Archmage Tinnitus that would benefit for pinging face. I don't think there was, so yeah. Very, very heads-up play from ETC.
Again! Do it again! Yes!
Yeah!
And now Monsanto will have to use his second sap, which means that Mountain Giant and all the other giants that come down can't get sapped. But Monsanto could also just kill this now with Shadow Step. He can Ziliax, and then Shadow Step to Ziliax.
Yeah.
And attack it again. But I gotta say, that was a pretty cool sequence there from ETC.
Yeah.
Even though it looks like Monsanto's in firm control, there still is one small possibility, and that is ETC having a Mana Cyclone to help stabilize and deal with the board.
He's got no Frost Nova, so the Archmage Tinnitus plan is not nearly as effective. He doesn't have enough time for that. 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 damage showing with the dagger up, so he's got like 2 turns to piece together something.
Ooh.
And there's Mana Cyclone. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's Questing Adventure. Well, he can make this Questing Adventure a 6/6.
Strand is Mountain Giant. I think he might be better to Giant.
Yeah, I think he got a Giant.
However, he's staring at 11 damage onto the board with no real way to life gain because he's not playing Ziliax. It's not looking good. And I think that ETC fought valiantly, but Monsanto's rogue deck playing to his strengths. You know, like one of the things is that he wasn't really like giving in to the idea of just like, oh, I'm a rogue deck. I just always want to like rush out into the board and be as fast as possible. He says my deck is better in the late game, and I'm just gonna keep running this game on and on until I'm able to find my opportunity to drain his resources and then push. And Burglar can just even find the game-ending damage here.
Yes, he could.
Hellfire's close.
Still, even with the Hellfire, a little bit off, but he can just push all this damage.
Yeah.
Walk the plank this Mountain Giant. Still have a sap in hand if anything goes very wrong.
Yes. Yeah, walk the plank. Well, Monsanto going for the blink. Is there like another opportunity for him to find lethal? I guess there could.
I don't think so. Like Threefold is the most, I think. Or Cinderstorm would be the absolute most. Cinderstorm would still be 2 off.
Yeah,
I guess
it'd be close.
Yeah, it'd be very close. It doesn't matter. Honestly, at this point, like, I don't think
Okay.
there's a way that ETC can get out.
Magic trick?
Frost Nova would buy him a turn.
Well, first he wants to get another magic trick. Frost Nova. Oh, but the thing is, there's a sap. Good thing Monsanto didn't use a sap.
Well, he could still kill it with Walk the Plank.
Well, he could have,
unless ETC were to ping it.
right. Well, if he didn't see Walk the Plank, he would have done that, I think.
Yeah, probably.
He would have bananaed and then ping his own questing adventurer. And now he's going to hope that sap was in the bottom 4 cards. And even then, Monsanto had ways to deal with it.
Yep. He
This
could even
Blink Fox.
pick up lethal here. Needs 3 damage or 2 damage.
Yeah, I mean, it was optimistic to say the least for this to pan out. Is there any other hope here? One final card here for ETC, but there's 11 cards remaining and there's a lot of junk.
His Conjurer's Calling into one of the 2 drops to pick up Doomsayer, but then he's at 5.
Well played.
Maybe he fatigues him out at that point, but not going to happen. Monsanto now 4-0 in America's Grandmasters.
Yeah, nicely done. And he's also adding to that total of Rogue for this week. Rogue is also undefeated this week so far. 3 series played, 3 series victories. And, you know, you just got to nod to Monsanto for, like, being able to spot the right meta read for the format right now. And also to really stick to his guns and really understand the lines of play that he's aiming for and able to execute accordingly.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't think anybody expected Rogue. Just because 24 hours after the nerf, all the other players were like, nobody has time to find a good Rogue list after all the nerfs took place. It's all theory crafting at this point.
Good stuff, though.
Yeah, but it's working out very well for both ETC and StrifeCrow, as we've seen. So, incredibly impressed.
All right, let's go ahead and talk to Monsanto, our first player at a 4-0 record so far. Monsanto, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, you know, now that you're able to be undefeated there, just give us some of your thoughts going into the week. Do you think Rogue is still just like the nuts, or do you think you just made a correct meta read here?
I think Rogue is very powerful against mages, as it is right now. I knew nobody would try to tech for Rogue or try to... Like, I knew whatever I wanted to do with Rogue, nobody was going to try to stop it in their deck building because nobody was expecting Rogue, so that was really good.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't really think anyone was going to bring Rogue, let alone, like, this variant of Rogue. I saw that, you know, StrifeCrow and you guys were, like, talking back and forth, and, you know, it was, like, saying, like, the cards feel like nonsense. So if you were to make a recommendation for ladder for people who want to take this deck list, would you change any cards? And if so, what would they be?
I mean, the Walk the Plank in the primary just feels weird when you're facing anything but Mage. But it's a different deck from Strife Crow. Strife Crow is still on the very tempo-oriented. My deck is more like a Shark deck. It's a value / control. It feels like a control deck that can generate so much value, so it's kind of different. I like the list as it is, pretty much.
Okay, interesting. Just go ahead and switch out Walk the Plank for the pocket meta that you're in on ladder, but end up playing the same list.
Yeah, I recommend taking out the Walk the Plank and putting in a Lore Walker Cho.
Or a Millhouse Mana Storm.
Or a Millhouse Mana Storm.
I mean, it's a 2-mana 4/4. What can you argue with?
Yeah,
that?
Monsanto, do you agree with my recommendation?
Cho's good against mages. Like, they can't interact with it. You get all the bananas.
That's right. And then
and lackeys aren't spells, and since nobody gets ethereal lackeys anymore, you're not generating spells.
Right. And then
Yeah,
when you
that
get
lackey doesn't exist.
That's what I'm saying, man. So out of I was trying to keep track. I think you played or you received 32 lackeys over the course of yesterday and today. And did you get one yesterday? I couldn't remember if it was you or Strife Crow.
No, I got 0.
You got 0. 0 for 32 ethereal lackeys. Monsanto, there's something going on here, man. I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. I'll let you know my findings.
Yeah, but it's fine for me because Cobalt Lackey is better, and I got a lot of them.
Yeah, Cobalt Lackey is super powerful, and you know what? Yes, Ethereal Lackeys might be going extinct. They're an endangered species, TJ, but Monsanto doesn't need it. Congratulations, man, on your 4-0, and good luck next week.
Thank you.
All right, so, the 2 highest win percentage lackeys are Ethereal Lackey to get a spell
and
Cobalt Lackey to deal damage.
Yeah.
But Monsanto only needed 1.
0. It's crazy. I don't know.
It's very unlikely.
Something's wrong here.
Genetically modified lackeys.
I'm upset.
There's too many chemicals being out there. Something like that. I don't know.
We're gonna make a Monsanto joke there. Something about GMO.
That was the joke, but I couldn't really follow through because I am severely out of my depth in agricultural food industry.
Step your game up, Dan.
Horticultural differences. Coming up next, we have Purple versus Dog. This is going to be a warrior versus a mage. One of 3 that we'll be having today. All the warriors think that they're in a good spot, but so do the mages. So we'll find out where the results end up falling when we come back here to the Hearthstone Grandmasters.